So for the fourth episode of IPEavesdrop, I have Ping from IPE MA, and we're going to be talking about some of her experiences from the course and how the last year went. Now, I was supposed to do this interview at my Airbnb because I'm on holiday right now, but then I thought it'd be really nice to do it by the beach, and it gives me more of a reason to sit out in the sun for a little bit. Um, but before we started this interview, Ping and I were talking about how we met and how the year really has been. So apparently we met in the class, the legitimacy of democracy, wasn't it?
Yes.
And the first thing that I said, because we had to go around the whole class and talk about one cool fact about ourselves, I mentioned my hamster, and Ping really liked that.
Exactly. That's the first thing I remember about you. I'm like, oh my God, that hamster story. I have to know this girl, be friend with her to see the hamsters.
He's become quite a superstar on my Instagram for sure.
Yes, I remember I hit like the other day.
Oh,
Like,
he's
oh,
cute.
little flop.
Hello. We also had the what was it, the MNC course together, the Multinational Corporation.
Yes.
Yeah, that was quite fun. I really enjoyed that one. So first of all, what motivated you to join the course?
Okay. That's a question that I've been probably thinking about um for the last years because I've always liked like politics and international relations because I was majoring in political science in my undergrad and then I worked for Taiwanese government for like a year and a half. But I've always wanted to come to Europe and study international relations. So I talked with my professors back in uni, and she suggests that, well, you can probably check out the like modules in the UK, and then I find this IPE module. Well, this IPE course really matched my interest because I think well, the international political economy in Taiwan is extra complicated since we have the um, entangled relationships with China and the United States. So that is something I feel like I can work on and maybe do some work here and probably brought it back to Taiwan and contributed to my country, I guess.
So you did your undergrad in Taiwan.
Yes, I did my undergrad in Taiwan in political science, but I've been like interning and in like international corporations. So besides from my academic journey, I'm also very interested in that business part. So that's why I choose to do IPE because it's not only about politics, it's more about like economics and also the policy about it.
So did you have any expectations or worries before starting the course?
Well, I feel like it's a very common topic with like classmates have been talking about during the past few months. Well, I actually didn't think much about it before I started because I've already checked out the like the lectures, the hours, and I already know that masters is going to be a self-learning journey. Like school will offer you lectures, but besides that, it is all about how you are going to use the resources and how can you make the best out of it.
So what was it like studying in Taiwan compared to studying in the UK?
Well, study in Taiwan, that's just the typical Asian stereotype. Like we have 21 hours of lectures back in uni, That's just an average. Some people takes more than 21 hours. 21 is just my average. And so it's basically like high school. We don't really have much time to think about what we really want, and it's very competitive, I would say. So during my uni, I was studying and also interning in different like startups or international companies, and also interning in Taiwan's Ministry of Diplomat. And I was teaching kids English and also doing my side gig of modeling. It's just too much work, but I do enjoy it back then.
That sounds like a lot on your plate. What was it like working at, you mentioned the Ministry of Diplomacy.
Yes.
Oh, what was that like?
Oh, that is funny because when I was interning there, it's when COVID-19 first hit it. And then China passed national security law in Hong Kong. So it's a very busy period for our ministry to handle so much like incidents and situations at the same time. I remember back then I have to produce a daily report from every like embassies from around the world to organize the COVID-19 situation then, and if there's any changes in like traveling regulations, and also the Hong Kong situation, because back then Hong Kong's very in a very much crisis time, I would say.
That sounds really fascinating, but also very intense to do during your undergrad.
Yeah, but I do enjoy it though.
How did that inform your decisions on the kind of modules you chose for IPE?
Well, mm, I would say the major thing that affect my choice on IP modules would be my like other internships in private sectors. Like I used to intern in a startup that develops apps, and also another company that export industrial memory RAM. And during the process, I know that when we are like trading or doing business, like policy is a very important part in the business, because when you're doing business with other country, of course you have to like comply with their policies, and it it is not a very easy topic for people who only study like business or economics can handle. We do need some like politics professionals to like professions in politics to deal with those kind of regulations. So that's why I
That's
chose for the first semester I chose IPE of global supply chain, and also democratic legitimacy of international corporation.
and for the second semester, I remember we were in the, what was it, digital platforms,
Yes, the
platform capitalism.
yeah, platform capitalism. So like platform capitalism and also the global supply chain are kind of more leaning to the international business part of this MA, I think. So not that political, but more economic.
It's really interesting that you brought up earlier that you worked at a startup that created apps, because I remember a presentation you gave that was incredible, by the way, in the
Oh, thank
platform capitalism class, and you talked about surveillance capitalism,
you.
and how these apps are being used to track our daily activities. What
Yes.
are your thoughts on that?
Oh, that is very interesting because Do you usually feel like your phone kind of show you the ad that you just had a conversation with your friends? Like I was talking with my friends, like, hey, I want a pair of new heels, and then your phone will pop up an ad about like heels and everything. You feel like, oh my God, have you been listening? But
So
that
true.
is not delusional. That is totally true. Like your phone is literally listening to us at the moment right now. And for
So true.
example, yeah, it's been proven. Like, for example, the most obvious example would be TikTok. I remember there's like news and reports from the engineers that used to work in TikTok. They kind of came out to the public and say, hey, Chinese governments have asked us to, like, we've been sending daily or weekly information reports to our main corporation in China, and the corporation probably have some connections with the government. And I did write this as a case study for the essay in that module. So that's very interesting.
Was that your favorite module of the year?
Oh, this is interesting. I would say my favorite modules would be because I like global supply chain and also the IP of energy market. That's the other module I chose during the second semester because I wrote my dissertation about global production network in wind energy industry of Taiwan. So I feel like these two modules helped me a lot in study this Taiwanese case about wind energy developing.
So what was the biggest lesson that you learned from the course? It could be academic or personal.
Oh, I like this question. I would say just, hmm, I can probably tell a story about my application to KCL because we have to write this. What is it called again? Did you remember? We have to write this 2K words of like self
Personal
statement.
statement.
Yeah, statement of
Hmm.
purpose. I remember. Um, so after I finished that statement, I had it for like friends and like teachers and family to help me proofread it. And someone said, I think you have to tone your statement to tone it down a bit more because in the first paragraph of my statement, I said, um, I feel like English opened up my horizons because it is after I learn English and also know more about the world that I understand that my country has been um, in a very has always been in a how do you put it, in a more mm, not controversial way. So our country has been under a threat from the other side of the sea for like more than decades, and that is the that is the motivation for me to study political science at the first place, because I think politics is in our everyday life, especially for Taiwanese. So in my statement of purpose, I wrote that the reason I want to study IPE is because I need the knowledge and I need to mm, get myself more resources to learn about this. And the reason why I want to do it is to contribute this to my country, and probably one day Taiwan can realize the dream of like normalize our country and get recognized by the world. But
That's really
like,
inspiring.
Thank you. But this is very like controversial, I would say, because, well, um, many like schools in the UK are still in very tight connections with China. For example, I remember there's a incident in UCL where a professor got kind of reported by a Chinese student because she revealed the Xinjiang centralized camp data and also the slavery indicate index. I remember. So this, I feel like this world need people who are there to tell the truth and who are brave enough to risk their career, risk their life to speak out for people who can't. And in this case, I choose Kings because I think if they give me the offer after reading my statement of purpose, it means that KCL is a very inclusive school, and it means in a way they support human rights, and this would be a great place for me to study IPE.
Did you find that Kings were supportive of the Taiwanese community?
Well, we do have Taiwanese Union, but yeah, overall, I would say I didn't encounter any like aggressive interaction with our Chinese classmates. By far, they've been like doing well. So I think it's overall it's really great.
What advice would you give to prospective Taiwanese students who would want to apply for a course like this at King's?
Mm, I think in Taiwan, because we are so used to like focus on business, focus on economy, to avoid the political tension that we have with China, the advice I would give is to follow your heart. Like if you think this is right, then no matter what other people say, this is the right road for you. Because if you don't do this, then no one will.
Oh, that was really beautifully put. I really love the way you framed that.
Oh, thank
Did
you.
you did you face any challenges over the last year and how did you overcome them?
Well, yeah, there are indeed some challenges. I would just because it is a new place after all, it's across half the globe. It is indeed pretty challenging to move here and start a new life here, but I would say our classmates and schools and professors, they're all very supportive. So I just need to be brave, speak out, don't hesitate too much before doing anything because all the opportunities and chances are for people who are prepared and people who are brave enough to reach them.
Thank you so much for doing this interview. Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your experiences with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.